Welcome back to Energetically You. I'm your host, Megan Swan, a wellness coach and consultant, and the founder of Megan Swan Wellness and the Sustainable Integrated Wellness Approach. Today is a very special episode. It is actually the last episode I will be recording of Energetically You. This has been a passion project, a real joy, a massive learning curve, and something that I've been really proud of. So I'm very excited to chat with you about why this is the last episode, what I've learned in the process of creating the podcast, and the incredible interviews that I've done over the past 2 years and a bit, and what's coming up next in my world. So let's dive in. Honestly, I can't believe in some respects that this is the 120th episode of Energetically You. This is season 3, so it was 2 and a bit years of podcasting and a lot of incredible interviews. You can always refer to my website. My favorite episodes under the podcast section are listed and transcribed and linked. So you can always check out sort of the highlights there. And another thing that I did that I felt inspired to do, and I got a lot of positive feedback, there is a guided meditation series weaved into the podcast. And if you're interested, please reach out. I have a little one-pager that helps you locate all of the guided meditations in one place, so you can have it as a reference point if that is something that you enjoyed or you are curious to have sort of in a look at, a try. I'm so excited to tell you about what I learned. So I have decided, first off, I'll say that the podcast is definitely going to be evergreen. It's going to be in the ethers of the internet, live and well, as the beautiful content that it is. If you wanted to refer back to, if you didn't get a chance to listen to all the incredible episodes, they're going to be there at least for another year, probably 2. Mostly because I'm just so proud of the content. I think there is, really important information. Each episode really had a powerful message, and I enjoyed doing those interviews, which kind of leads me to the reality that I've been digesting over the last month or so. I mean, I've been digesting since the beginning of the year, to be quite honest. The reality that I didn't want to do the production side of the podcast anymore. So I went through the process of interviewing multiple companies that do, the editing, the show notes, the back end of the podcast, in order to see if it could be a viable option to outsource and offload that series of tasks for myself. Just because I knew it was taking a lot of my energy, and the only part that I absolutely loved is actually interviewing people or creating the episode. All the back end stuff was a have to. And I concluded that, it just didn't make a lot of sense at this time to have a company produce it. So I was sitting with the reality that, okay, I still need to have those tasks on my plate. And I got some, loving, critical, constructive criticism is what I'm trying to say. Feedback from a friend of mine who has, 10 plus years in the podcasting industry. And she made me realize that there's a lot that I could do better, and really challenged me as to what the purpose of the podcast was. And I can say from the beginning, I really enjoyed the podcast from the standpoint that it helped me meet and connect with so many incredible humans and allowed me to have in-depth conversations with them, really at the end of the day from somewhat I guess of a selfish standpoint, in that I enjoyed, or I was asking questions about things that I wanted to know and areas where I thought I could grow and improve on and gain perspective and knowledge from these guests that I respected in the field. And so that, I think, created a lot of really beautiful, in-depth conversations, and I think they're of a lot of value. But what it didn't create was a lot of clarity to the listener and or myself about what the purpose of the podcast was beyond that, right? So it was like an exercise in knowledge discovery for myself, more than a demonstration of my expertise in particular. I did definitely do, I don't know, there's probably 40 personal episodes. Maybe that's a bit high. In the beginning, I really intended on doing half and half. So half interviews and half solo episodes. But I kind of just followed my journey, if you will, in that at the time I just really enjoyed interviewing people more than I did creating solo episodes. So that is to say, over time, it became more of this journey for me in meeting people and connecting, in learning, and I still really saw a lot of value in sharing that with the audience. But at the end of the day, when I've come to this realization that I'm not super excited about the production side and keeping up that side of it, that I had to take a hard look at the purpose of Energetically You. So for that reason, I've decided to take a pause on it. In my mind, this is probably the last episode, the 120th episode. No small feat, recording, editing, producing, promoting, creating graphics, all the things for 120 episodes. So I'm really honoring myself and appreciating the value. And I'm really proud of what I put out into the world, and I think it's still very valuable, and I will still be referring clients to specific episodes that I think could really help them. It was an amazing tool from that respect as well. And for all those reasons, it's going to stay live and it's going to be there for you to enjoy. So don't worry about that. So as I mentioned, you can check out on my website, just hit podcast, and there's a list of my favorite episodes. But there's just some that I was just so taken back by, and that I highly recommend that you check out. James Fishgill, as he goes by, about radical love and self-compassion. One of my earliest interviews was with Julie Pyatt, or SriMu. She is my spiritual mentor still to this day. And I am so excited, like jumping up and down excited, that I have booked myself a retreat with her and her husband, Rich Roll. I'm going to meet them, which is exciting enough in itself, because I honestly look at them as my wellness parents, if you will. Massive fan of the Rich Roll podcast. He was in my ears most of the time I was training. In the early days of sobriety, I channeled all my energy into training for learning how to run, training first for a half marathon, which seemed like a big feat at the time, and quickly within the first year of running, I ran 5 half marathons, and by the end of that year, I was preparing for a full marathon in Miami. That was in February of 2020. And I'm just so grateful for him. He really was my sober community beyond my best friend, or one of my dearest friends, Tanis, who got sober before I did, because I did, I'm what's it called? A spontaneous sobriety story, meaning I didn't do a program, I didn't go to AA. I think all the ways in which people get sober are extremely valuable. I wouldn't, it's not that I just didn't have access or really think it was necessary. I tried it on my own at first, and it stuck. But it was so important that I had what I felt like a mentor and community who was sober. So Rich Roll is a sober, plant-based ultra marathoner. And so it was important not only from the sobriety thread, but also being plant-based. And thirdly, I really was aware from that point, if I was filling my ears with, ultra marathoners talking about, how they're training, these people are running like hundreds of kilometers, day and night for events. So it just keeps in perspective like what I was training for as so doable. If I'm just like scratching the surface on what's possible, it's such a great technique in life to just surround yourself when you're trying to do something that you feel is outside of your comfort zone or outside of your knowledge realm even, or your experience. Surround yourself with people that are several steps in front of you, and therefore make it seem so much more possible. So that is how I see Rich Roll as a massive inspiration and motivator in my life, and I sort of look at him as the one major influencer in my wellness journey. And through the Rich Roll podcast, I actually discovered Julie, his wife, and quickly joined her spiritual community called Water Tiger. And there I got to know her and her perspective on spirituality much more in depth. We meet once a month. It's a group call for 2 hours, and I've been doing that for 2 years now. And relatively early on into joining that community, I invited her on my podcast, and I was just overjoyed and somewhat shocked that she agreed to come on. We actually had to, we've recorded one, and then we needed to reschedule to do it again. And I would say that was one of my more challenging interviews because, I was just so nervous. I had so much respect for her that I wanted to do a good job. And I think it's a really, really great conversation. But anyway, long story short, I adore these two humans, and I'm so excited to meet them. And that would be enough. But what makes it mind-blowingly incredible is the way in which I'm going to meet them is that I have signed up for their last plant-powered Italia. So I am going to Tuscany in a couple of weeks. It's a retreat, so it involves, she's a yogi, so it's yoga with Julie, running with Rich. She is an incredible plant-based chef. She has a plant-based cheese service. It's like a subscription. They're working very hard on making it available to internationally. Right now, I believe it's only available in the United States. It's called SriMu, SRIMU. I will include a code if you're interested in trying it. It's, incredible product. Anyway, so she's doing all the cooking. I'm honestly hoping that she just lets me sit in the kitchen, not sit, but help her and just soak up so much incredible knowledge from her in the kitchen as she's preparing the meals. And, yeah, I mean, it's been, I want to say, yeah, honestly, I can't say. It's been 20 years since I've been to Tuscany, and I've only been to Florence. I was never, in the country enjoying the countryside of Tuscany. And yeah, I mean, I haven't been to Europe in many, many years. I haven't been on anything like this ever. It's going to be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I rationalized it for three reasons. One, it's my gift to myself. This year I'm celebrating, it just passed. It was March 18th was my sober anniversary. I'm 5 years sober. So I am very proud of myself for that. And I'm also turning 44 in a couple weeks on April 15th. So 4 is like my number this year. And yeah, I knew that Rich and Julie, they've been talking about it. Well, she specifically in this community has mentioned multiple times because of the pandemic, they haven't done this retreat for 3 years. It almost happened last year, and then they canceled it at the last minute, which I saw as a blessing because I wasn't going to be able to go last year. And so I just said to myself, like, if it happens, I'm going to make it happen. Whew, so me and my tangents. All that to say that you should go back and listen to the episode I did with her. Amrit Singh, she is a cosmetic acupuncturist in Toronto. We talked all about cosmetic acupuncture. I'm so looking forward to having access to that when I move back to Canada. What else? There were so many incredible episodes. Natalie Haynes, her work on how to have uncomfortable conversations about race is pivotal. I highly recommend you listen to that episode. And there are so many more. All the episodes that I had on the powerhouses in the sobriety community, like Carolina and Heather. I'm just so appreciative that there were so many people. I mean, really, almost anyone that I invited on was game. And that, I think, is one of the biggest things that I learned as a transferable skill, if you will, is the mindset piece there that you just never know. And if you don't ask, it's not going to happen. And so it just expanded my vision of what is possible, who it's possible to connect with and have in-depth conversation. And people are just so willing. And of course, like people that are already in this industry that, make their life work about helping other people, but they're just so willing to share their wisdom and their message because they want to reach more people. And I was just so inspired by so many of my guests. And yeah, so that was one thing that I will be transferring to the next podcast, which I'm not going to tell you anything about it. I'm not going to give you a date. I have given myself permission that it doesn't need to come out a week after this, which was my plan at one point. What I'm going to do is let you know in due time. So if you're not on my email list, I highly recommend that you get on it. You can DM me your email, or you can sign up for the newsletter through my website, meganswanwellness.com. There are so many exciting things coming up on the horizon. I'm about to launch a course that is my life's work in the wellness sphere. It is 10 years of wisdom packaged and delivered in a way that is highly digestible, potent, and something that really can serve you for your lifetime. So that's all coming up. I'm so excited. Please keep in touch. I really appreciate you being here. And for those of you that reached out and told me over the years that you really enjoy the podcast and that you listen to it all the time or sporadically, I really appreciate you. I honor you. Thank you again for your support. And let's keep in touch. So find me if you haven't already on socials. I focus on Instagram and LinkedIn. At Megan Swan Wellness is my handle. And again, you can connect with me best by getting on the newsletter. Go to meganswanwellness.com or just reach out to me on socials with your email, and I'll make sure to add you to my list. Sending you so much love, and again, expressing so much gratitude for this experience, for everything that I've learned, for the incredible humans that I've been able to connect with and have deep conversations with. If you happen to be listening to this and you are a former guest and I didn't mention you, please know that I deeply, deeply appreciate you and the time that we shared in the interview. And for so many of you, it sparked a friendship, and I appreciate it so much. It's been such an incredible experience, and I wouldn't change it for the world. Signing off. Your host, Megan Swan of Energetically You. One last time, thanks so much for being here. I'm recording this last episode on the rooftop of my beautiful home here in Tuxtla Gutierrez, Chiapas. It is the morning, and I'm sure you can hear the birds chirping in the background. And I thought it was going to be the most perfect and authentic way to close out this chapter in my life. So thank you one last time for being here, and I'm so looking forward to connecting with you in new, exciting ways in the future. Stay tuned, stay connected. Much love.